911.
Yes, I need to get the 40. Let's go. Hold on.
I need you to tell me the address. What's the
Give
address?
me just a second. We walk to the mailbox. I think my brother-in-law's dead.
Okay, what's the address?
Give me just a second. 4077 Union Hill Road.
4077.
4077.
Okay, 4077 Union Hill, correct?
Yes, 4077 Union Hill Road.
Ma'am, you gotta tell me what's going on.
There's blood all over the house.
Okay.
My brother-in-law's in the bedroom. It looks like someone has beat the hell out of him.
Okay.
There's blood all over the front room.
Ma'am, can you tell me what county that's in? Is it
Pike County.
It's Pike County?
Yes, and they drug him in the bedroom.
Okay. I need you to get out of the house. 911. There's Pike County, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
This is 911. Can I help you?
Yeah, I need a deputy to come out to close to 799 West Fork.
Okay.
It's all this stuff that's on the news. I just found my cousin with a gunshot wound.
Okay. Sir, is he alive?
No.
Okay. And you're at 799 West Fork?
It's close to 799. I don't know what his address is. You don't have a box.
You don't have a box. Okay.
I'll be standing out by the road waiting on him.
It's just absolutely heartbreaking for these families, as you can imagine. And we're going to continue to follow this story throughout the evening and bring you the new information as soon as we get it. For now, reporting live in Piketon and Jeanette Levy, Local 12 News.
It's early in the morning on April 22nd, 2016. After receiving reports of suspicious activity, police are called to Union Hill Road in Piketon, Ohio. What they find is horrific. The Rhoden family, known locally as hardworking, tight-knit, and private, are discovered slaughtered in a series of execution-style killings. The brutality is staggering. 8 members of the same family, spread across 4 homes, have been shot multiple times, some while they were sleeping, one even being shot once in the eye.
I'd like to say that I'm the mother of Christopher Sr. and the mother of Kenneth. And I'd just like to say from my mother's heart that I hurt so bad inside from the day that I found out. And I'd like to say, if there's someone out there that knows anything about what happened, would they please come forward and tell what happened.
The victims include Christopher Rhoden Sr., his ex-wife Dana Rhoden, and their children, Frankie, Hannah Mae, and Chris Jr. Also killed are Frankie Rhoden's fiancée, Hannah Hazel Gilly, and Kenneth Rhoden, Christopher Sr.'s brother, along with their cousin, Gary Rhoden. 40-year-old Christopher Rhoden Sr. was the backbone of the family. Known as Big Chris, he was hardworking and resilient. He was a father who loved his children and wanted a better life for them. 37-year-old Dana Rhoden was the mother of 3 of the victims, Frankie, Hannah Mae, and Chris Jr. Dana was known for her caring nature and her love of family. 20-year-old Frankie Rhoden was a father and a devoted partner. His life revolved around his family and fiancée, Hannah Hazel Gilly, whose life was also tragically taken that night. 20-year-old Hannah Gilly was described as a loving mother and a true friend. She had dreams of raising her children alongside Frankie, building a life filled with love and laughter. 19-year-old Hannah Mae Rhoden was strong-willed and deeply protective of her loved ones. Having given birth to her second daughter, who was only 4 days old at the time of Hannah Mae's murder, she was dedicated to her children and refused to give up custody of her daughter, Sophia, despite the pressures from her former boyfriend, Jake Wagner. Christopher Rhoden Jr., just 16 years old, was the baby of the family. Known as Little Chris, he was full of energy and had his whole life ahead of him. His siblings looked out for him, and he idolized his older brother and sister. 44-year-old Kenneth Rhoden was Christopher Sr.'s brother, also known as Kenny. He was hardworking, humble, and respected by those around him. 38-year-old Gary Rhoden was a cousin and close member of the extended family, known for his easygoing nature and sense of humor.
Nobody can imagine what this family has been through. You know, there's been a lot of stuff that's been put out there. But my brothers were good people. They would give you the shirt off their back if they could. They would do anything to help you. Dana was a wonderful person. She always tried to help do stuff for my mom.
Yes, I loved her too. She was a good daughter-in-law. She didn't deserve that. She came and helped all she could when I had my kneecap off before. She just came and done things, wonderful things, helping.
As the local community mourns, police are immediately faced with a daunting task. Why had the Rhodens been targeted, and who could be responsible for such a cold-blooded massacre? Investigators scour the crime scenes. It's clear that this was no random act of violence and that the perpetrators knew the family well. It was revealed that the Rhoden family grew marijuana on their property, and early reports speculated that the family might have been involved in a larger criminal enterprise. Could the killings have been the result of a drug cartel sending a violent message? For more than a year, the community of Pike County remained on edge. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that there was much more brewing beneath the surface. Something more personal, more evil, and more twisted. A bitter custody dispute between a father and a mother. Jake Wagner, the former boyfriend of Hannah Rhoden and father to her 2.5-year-old child, Sophia, had been at the center of a contentious custody battle with Hannah before her death. Investigators believe this battle might be the very reason for the killings. As scrutiny tightens around the Wagners, the family then makes a sudden and unexpected move, a decision that would raise even more suspicion. In June of 2017, they packed up their lives and moved nearly 4,000 miles away to the remote wilderness of Alaska. They claimed they wanted a fresh start, away from the rumors and prying eyes of Pike County. But to investigators, this move is more than a quest for a new beginning. It's a calculated attempt to escape the ever-tightening circle of suspicion. Despite the move, Ohio authorities, with the help of federal agents, keep the Wagners under close surveillance. Alaska may provide physical distance, but it can't erase the digital footprints, phone records, or suspicions that linger behind. Investigators continue to build their case, quietly, methodically, waiting for the right moment to strike, building a case so solid that the Wagners wouldn't have a chance to escape justice. Then, on November 13th, 2018, just before dawn, teams of federal agents and local law enforcement converge on multiple locations. First, George Wagner IV and his brother Jake Wagner, driving along an Ohio highway in Ross County. In a coordinated traffic stop, police surround them, leaving no room for escape. As the truck slows to a stop, officers move in.
Keep your hands up high!
Pulling them from the vehicle, cuffing them on the side of the road.
Keep walking! Go down to your knees, sir. Go down to your knees, sir. Go down to your knees. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. Stand up. Come with me. Stand up. Come on. Come on. Getting behind this truck. Do you have anything on you, sir, that's going to stick me, poke me? Yeah, do you have any firearms on you?
I got a Leverman's tool on my right.
What about a firearm or anything like that?
No.
Anybody else in the car?
Are there any weapons? None at all. No, nothing, no.
The weight of the charges pressed down. 8 counts of aggravated murder. Next, George Billy Wagner III, arrested in Lexington, Kentucky at the end of the driveway to the Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital. Police say they had received a tip that he was visiting the hospital with a sick horse.
Angela, do you have anything to say?
Angela Wagner is arrested at their home in Scioto County, Ohio. Together, they had stood by their sons even as suspicion darkened their name. But now, it was clear the entire Wagner family had been woven into the fabric of this cold-blooded massacre. As the cuffs tightened around their wrists, the lies they had carefully constructed began to unravel.
Well, good afternoon. We promised that the day would come when arrests would be made in the Pike County massacres. Today is that day. Yesterday, a Pike County grand jury indicted 4 individuals for aggravated murder with death penalty specifications. George Billy Wagner III, his wife Angela Wagner, and their sons, George Wagner IV and Edward Jake Wagner. After an extensive, thorough joint investigation by the Attorney General's Office, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, as well as our Special Prosecution Section, and Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder's office, these 4 individuals are now in custody for allegedly committing this heartless, ruthless, cold-blooded murder. These are the faces of the victims, an entire family and members of their extended family, massacred. Many of them were killed as they slept. They are Christopher Rhoden Sr., age 40. His ex-wife, Dana Manley Rhoden, age 37. Their children, Hannah Mae Rhoden, age 19. Christopher Rhoden Jr., age 16. Clarence Frankie Rhoden, age 20. And his fiancée, Hannah Hazel Gilly, age 20. Further, Christopher Rhoden's brother, Kenneth Rhoden, age 44. Their cousin, Gary Rhoden, age 38. All 8 victims were killed in cold blood. They were shot in their own homes. They were brutally and viciously executed. The killers knew the territory and meticulously planned these horrendous murders. The 8 victims left behind an extended grief-stricken family, including 4 young children. Thankfully, in their only show of mercy, the killers spared the 3 children at the scenes. Children then ages 3 years of age, 6 months, and 5 days. At the center of this case were members of one family whom we believe the evidence will show conspired together to kill these 8 people, 8 of their friends. 4 members of the Wagner family, a husband, a wife, their 2 adult sons, are all now facing numerous charges, including 8 counts of aggravated murder each, 1 count for each victim. The aggravated murder charges also include death penalty specifications for all 4 suspects. Now, because this is an open prosecution, we won't be able to say much about motive, but you'll see from the indictments that custody of that young child plays a role in this case. We believe that the Wagners conspired together to develop an elaborate plan to kill the 8 victims under the cover of darkness and then carefully cover up their tracks. We believe the evidence will show that the suspects spent months planning the crimes. They studied the victims' habits and their routines. They knew the layouts of their homes. They knew where they slept. And then after executing each victim, we believe the evidence will further show that the suspects tampered with the evidence, such as the victims' phones and the surveillance cameras on their properties. Now, as in all killings, even those that are methodically planned, mistakes are made. And it's our job to find those mistakes. We've been gathering evidence in this case for about 2.5 years. All the other key evidence in this investigation have led us to today's charges and arrests. In addition to aggravated murder, these 4 family members are also charged with a number of other offenses. They include conspiracy, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, aggravated burglary for allegedly breaking into the Rhoden's home to commit the crimes, tampering with evidence, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, unauthorized use of property, interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications, and finally, obstruction of justice. The 4 suspects are also all facing charges of forgery for allegedly forging child custody documents. Two other people were also arrested today in conjunction with the cover-up of these crimes. And let me again emphasize, these 2 individuals were arrested in regard to the cover-up of these crimes. Angela's mother, Rita Newcomb, and Billy's mother, Frederica Wagner. The charges against these 2 suspects relate to their alleged actions to mislead our authorities. From the arrival of our BCI crime scene units on the morning of April 22, 2016, to now, we have never stopped working towards justice for the victims. And I asked my team to do an estimate, and this is all it really is, of the amount of time that was spent in this investigation. This would include the time of the sheriff's office. This would include the time of BCI. This would include our investigators. This would include our lab. And it was tens of thousands of hours. No way really to know exactly. We have followed more than 1,100 tips from the public. We conducted 550 interviews, served more than 200 subpoenas, search warrants, and court orders, and tested more than 700 items of evidence. The team also traveled thousands of miles to 10 separate states as a direct result of this investigation. That includes some very significant time in Alaska, where the Wagner family moved before coming back to Pike County. Our team used innovative new technology. This, of course, is not the end. Whether it is a new day in this case, as we work to hold those allegedly who committed these unspeakable murders accountable and get a measure of justice for the victims.
The Wagner family, according to prosecutors, had spent months plotting the murders. Their goal, eliminate the Rhodens to gain custody of Jake and Hannah's daughter. Yet, when they appear in court for initial hearings in November and December of 2018, they plead not guilty to all charges. It's not until April 21st, 2021, On the 5th anniversary of the murders, does the case finally gain momentum when Jake Wagner shocks the nation by pleading guilty to the murders of 5 members of the Rhoden family? As part of a plea deal to avoid the death penalty for him and all his family members, Jake agrees to cooperate with authorities and testify against his family members, implicating them in the plot.
Aggravated murder as charged in count 1.
I am guilty, Your Honor.
What plea do you wish to enter to count 2 of the indictment charging you with the aggravated murder of Christopher Rhoden Sr.?
And I am guilty, Your Honor.
And to count 3 charging you with the aggravated murder of Gary Rhoden, what plea do you wish to enter?
And I am guilty, Your Honor.
And what plea do you wish to enter to count 4 charging you with the aggravated murder of Clarence Franklin Rhoden?
And I am guilty, Your Honor.
And to the charge of aggravated murder of Hannah Hazel Gilly, what plea do you wish to enter?
I am guilty, Your Honor.
What plea do you wish to enter in count 6 to the charge of aggravated murder of Dana Rhoden?
I am guilty, Your Honor.
What plea do you wish to enter in count 7 to the charge of aggravated murder of Hannah Mae Rhoden?
I am guilty, Your Honor.
What plea do you wish to enter in count 8 to the charge of aggravated murder of Christopher Rhoden Jr.?
I am guilty, Your Honor.
During his testimony, Jake provides chilling details about the night of the murders. He admits that he and his family planned the killings for months, carefully mapping out the home and their movements. He describes how they entered the Rhoden homes in the dead of the night, silencing the victims one by one. Jake personally admits to killing 5 of the Rhodens, while his family members carried out the murders of the other 3. Even the most carefully orchestrated plans can leave behind a digital footprint. And in the case of the Pike County murders, those footprints came in the form of text messages, cryptic conversations, emotional exchanges, and subtle hints that, in hindsight, revealed so much. The messages exchanged between the members of the Wagner family and the Rhoden family became a critical part of the investigation, particularly the text messages between Jake Wagner and Hannah Rhoden. In the months leading up to the murders, these texts hinted at a growing tension over the custody of their daughter, tensions that would eventually erupt in deadly violence.
From Jake, she ain't going to daycare, Hannah. From Hannah, you're not my boss. From Jake, Hannah, I'm not your boss, but Suds ain't going to daycare. Next message, Hannah, answer the phone and talk to me. From Hannah, you're not the choice maker, I am. Point, period, blank. From Jake, why are you ignoring me, Hannah? Next message, and why would you even think about daycare?
Triple L 62.
Conversation from April 4th, 2015 from Jake. If you move on, Hannah, you done did. Next message, 2 question marks. From Hannah, no, I haven't. I'm perfectly fine being myself. From Jake, you moved on from me. From Hannah, okay, well, I didn't move onto a new relationship. I just need to clear my head. From Jake, what does that mean? From Hannah, I need to figure out what I want. From Jake, you know if you decide you do want me, I'm just telling you, I'm never leaving my farm.
Triple L 63.
Conversation from April 17th, 2015 from Jake. Why not, Hannah? From Hannah, IDK. From Hannah, well, I'm not signing any papers, period. From Jake, what papers? The only thing we sign is our agreement to the 50-50, that's it. And you're going to read it before we sign it. I'll bring my computer when I pick her up tomorrow so you can read it. From Hannah, I don't have to sign it. From Jake, do you want to write it out yourself?
Triple L 64.
Another cover sheet indicating the backup source information.
And Triple L 65.
Conversation from June 9th, 2015 from Jake. Why are you ignoring me? Do I not mean anything to you? Next message. Don't you love me? Miss our love? Next message. Hannah? Next message. Tell Sud I love her. Next message. And I still love you, though I think you don't love me. From Hannah. I don't want to be with you. I have other things to worry about. Sorry.
Hannah Mae was adamant. She would not sign over custody of her daughter to Jake Wagner. In one social media message to Tess Ruggles, the mother of George Wagner's ex-wife Tabitha Claytor, Hannah Mae wrote, "I will not sign papers. They will have to kill me first." Tess advised Hannah Mae to not do what Tabitha had done, to be tricked into signing over custody of her daughter. Julia Evsledge, a criminal intelligence analyst, read the exchange while taking the stand at George Sr.'s trial.
The conversation occurred on December 9th, 2015. The first message is from Hannah Rhoden. "I know how they are. I was in their family for 5 years, and I know how it is to have a child with one of them as well. I won't sign papers. And my house is beyond clean, and they cannot prove me unfit, so therefore I won't lose Sophia." Hannah continues, "In fact, I just got a new house that is bigger, more rooms and everything." Tess replies, "That's good. I'm glad to see you're doing good. I've dealt with them for years. Angela never liked me from the beginning because Freddie told everyone I was her daughter, which made Angela jealous. But I don't give a rat's about any of them other than Freddie, Bob, and Robin." There's a misspelling. I'm talking, you girl, telling you perhaps you don't believe anything that family says. Hey, your baby back and tell them go f themselves. Sorry for what I perceive as blowing up, but Tabby has been in my about all week and I'm getting pretty edgy. I'm glad to see you are doing good. I truly am. Hannah replies, "I won't sign papers ever. It won't happen. They will have to kill me first." Tess replies, "Good, sweetie. Make sure you do," it says T, "don't ever sign anything." That's the end of the conversation.
And again, can you tell us the date of that communication?
December 9th, 2015.
Okay. And again, is that a conversation that you identified amongst the records that you received from Facebook for the Facebook account of Hannah Mae Rhoden?
Yes.
And you brought it to the attention of the investigators because you felt it was of high investigative value?
Yes.
Even Tabitha herself shared her concerns about custody issues with Hannah Mae. When she testified at George Wagner's fourth trial, she read some of her messages to Hannah Mae while on stand.
There are some additional messages, all from March 28th of 2015, and the marking is to the left of that. It starts with, so Cody said?
Yes.
Okay. Again, if you can look over that and tell me if you recall receiving that message, or that receiving and replying
yes.
to that message chain. Okay. And can you tell us what that says?
I said, so Cody said you and Jake are going to be going through a custody thing. Hannah says, yeah, trying to get a job. And she also says we are supposed to go to court over it. I said, well, you are the mother, so it shouldn't be hard on your part. But we are dealing with Angela. And then I also said, and we know how she gets when it comes to Vine and Sons.
Yeah, we have some competing noise out there. So I just ask you to keep your, now that the noise is over, could you answer the question again?
Yes.
Maybe she needs to give that again.
Okay. The last part you said, just start where you said, well, you are the mother, and then read from there. I think that's when
I said, well, you are the mother, so it shouldn't be hard on your part, but we are dealing with Angela. And you know how she gets when it comes to Vine and Sons.
Okay. And who is Vine?
My son.
Okay. And who is Sons?
Her daughter.
But the messages that truly raise alarms are those exchanged within the Wagner family itself. Investigators uncovered a series of cryptic texts. Coded in their intentions but clear in their purpose, a plot was taking shape.
And murdered 8 people.
Discussions of custody, conversations about firearms, and strategic planning to remove any obstacles in their path. While the messages aren't outright confessions, they form a trail of evidence, one that shows the extent of the family's coordination. Plans to buy ammunition, discussions about silencing the victims, and eerie mentions of removing threats. When the text messages are finally revealed in court, they become some of the most damning pieces of evidence. These digital conversations, once hidden behind locked phones and family secrets, are now on full display.
When you think about what they did afterwards and, how they kind of hung around, suddenly they just kind of vanished, wound up in Alaska, that they actually thought that they could get away with something like that. And then they come back in order to defend their good name. I think that's again, it gives you an insight into some of the family dynamic and certainly some of the psychopathology that's going on.
They said many times, and I know Angela Wagner specifically told me that her family was being slandered. I have the Facebook messages. Right. This was from May of 2021. And, they swore up and down they didn't do this. And then boom, April, May, somewhere in there, 2021 rolls around. And we get word that Jake is going to plead guilty. I found out about this and I about fell out of my chair. I was covering the Chauvin trial. And I thought he would be the last one, but he was the first. Yep. So obviously, I heard through the grapevine that he found God, that he truly found God in prison or in jail, I should say, and that is why Jake decided to come clean.
Jake Wagner's confession marks a major turning point in the case. But it also leaves many in the community grappling with the question, how could an entire family, parents and children, conspire to commit such a heinous act?
This case rocked the region when this happened. The notion of going in and killing everybody except the babies, including a couple of teenagers, really got people's attention.
And those babies were in the homes. One was 4 days old, sleeping next to her mother.
Yes. It's heartbreaking when you hear about this. And it's also diabolical when if we are to believe what the prosecution alleges, the amount of planning that went into this and the amount of attempting to make it look like something it wasn't, like a drug deal gone bad.
Deep, deliberate planning. Every step, every decision, every purchase was part of a greater plan. The Wagners weren't just executing a murder. They were executing a conspiracy, a plot born out of fear, obsession, and control. From silencers to cell phone jammers, the surveillance equipment to firearms, the Wagners left nothing to chance. They scouted the Rhodens' homes, surveilled their movements, and waited for the right moment to strike. This was not the work of a single person. It was a coordinated effort by an entire family. With Jake Wagner's confession in hand, prosecutors turned their attention to George Wagner IV, Angela Wagner, and Billy Wagner. Each of them faced charges of aggravated murder, conspiracy, and other felonies related to the massacre. On September 10th, 2021, 5 months after Jake confesses, Angela Wagner pleads guilty. She doesn't go to trial, but she testifies in George Wagner IV's trial. In September 2022, George Wagner IV's trial begins.
What do you recall?
My mom and brother has said that since the beginning. That's why I believe that we were being framed, because they said that they were twisting everything that my mom and brother had on their phones and laptops, and they were trying to frame us.
And was that your mindset during these conversations?
Yes.
After listening to these recordings that we heard in court, how do you feel about what Jake was saying and what you now know he did?
I now know that he was just lying through his teeth to me.
What about your mother?
The same thing. She was just lying to me from the beginning.
Did you ever tell your mother, referencing these recordings, did you ever tell your mother you would take the blame for these murders?
No, I did not.
While we were listening to these recordings, there was actually a text message that was shown to the jury between you and Josie. Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right. Something about how really close your family is?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
We've
That
just-
text message.
We've just been in close proximity our whole life, and she was talking about moving down here at that time frame, and I just wanted her to understand that me and my family are fairly close with each other, and she said that was fine, and her family's the same way.
Did that text have anything to do with these murders?
No.
Referencing back to these recordings again that we listened to, I remember hearing yourself say something along the lines of, and this is a conversation between you and Jake, every time I do something, you rat me out.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
It reverts to our childhood.
What do you mean?
It didn't matter what I did as a kid, my brother ran to tell my mother.
There was another recording we listened to in the last few days where you said something about everybody's out to get us.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Everything that was being said on topics and Facebook, like everybody was against my family.
One of the conversations we listened to involved your brother and your mother, and you were kind of in the background. Your mother said something about they're framing us. You remember that?
Yes.
And that she would take the death penalty.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
At that time, did you know your mom and brother were involved in these murders or committed the murders?
No.
I think it was in that same conversation where Jake says he will get out one way or another. Do you remember that?
Yes.
At that time, did you know he had killed these people?
No. I was under the assumption that he was referring to if he got framed and was wrongfully convicted.
And then your voice is in the background, and you say, ain't gonna have the electric chair, or words to that effect.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
I just get irritated when people are messing with my family and stuff. Especially when I've been up for 5 days with no sleep and on massive amounts of caffeine, and it makes you irritable.
Did you know at that point that your mom and brother were actually guilty of anything?
No.
Are you guilty of any of these offenses?
No.
The trials have been long and complex, with defense attorneys arguing that not all of the Wagner family members are equally culpable in the murders.
What about Jake when he was up here? Laughing and smiling and smirking as he's talking about these murders. He's cold-blooded. I think he's psychotic. He didn't seem to have a care in the world. It's like sitting around talking about a football game on Monday morning is the way he's talking about killing these people. It's disgusting. He's a sick man. You can't believe what that guy says. And Angela's not a lot better. All right? You know, Angela testified that Hannah was like a daughter to her, right? They lived together. Over there on Peterson Road, she would chit-chat with Hannah at night. The upstairs people, I think is what she used. Where they would be caring for the kids that might wake up in the middle of the night, and they'd sit at the top of the stairs and chit-chat. Maybe like people do in the middle of the night, right? That's her second daughter, and she plots to kill her? Which is exactly what she did. You don't think she'd throw George under the bus if she's plotting to kill Hannah?
On November 20th, 2022, George Wagner IV is found guilty of all charges, including 8 counts of aggravated murder. He is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This conviction marks a significant victory for the prosecution, which successfully argued that George IV was a key conspirator, even if he did not personally pull the trigger. Billy Wagner is expected to go to trial, with prosecutors aiming to establish his role in orchestrating and participating in the murders. Prosecutors are expected to use Jake and Angela's testimonies to detail the family's conspiracy further and show the extent of Billy's involvement. Today, the legal process surrounding the Pike County murders is still unfolding, with Billy Wagner and Angela Wagner waiting their fates in the courtroom. The guilty pleas, testimony, and ongoing trials are part of a long journey towards justice for the Rhoden family. For the community of Pike County, the scars of the massacres run deep. What was once a quiet, rural area became the center of one of the most chilling murder cases in Ohio's history. The case has left residents grappling with feelings of betrayal, loss, and anger, as well as the haunting question of how such evil could take root in their community.
I would like to thank the citizens of the state of Ohio for bearing this burden that should have never happened to this family in Southern Ohio.
Just commenting, Tony, about how the relationship seemed to be one of affection between the Wagners and at least your brother Chris and so forth. What do you make of all this madness?
You said the word.
Madness. What did you feel when you heard the first guilty verdict? What was going through your mind, and anyone else who'd care to comment?
I feel sorry for him.
Why is that?
Why? Because he is human.
How do you find the humanity at a time like this when he did so much to your family?
I think we all have human in us. There's just a difference in us.
Can you give us any sense of what you're feeling just right now?
A little bit of peace. We still have a long road to go. We'll get there. Because we are family.
As the trials continue, one thing remains clear. The tragedy of the Pike County murders will never be forgotten. 8 lives were stolen, and an entire family was shattered in an act of unimaginable violence. But through the pursuit of justice, the hope is that those responsible will face the consequences of their actions, and the Rhoden family will be remembered not for the way they died, but for the lives they lived.